all of you. I hope you are hearing me well. First of all,
would you like to share a screen? Would you like to share a screen so we can?
Yes, I have some slides.
Should we make you a co-host?
I hope you can see them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
okay. So first of all, I want to thank Amna Malik for inviting me and thank my dear friend and colleague Tehsin Nisar for inviting me to talk about the Kashmir issue. Well, then I would like to thank for indicating me as a very senior professor. It's the first time that I see such a indication. I think is sort of homage to my long career, and I hope to feel the expectation and saying something, let's say, interesting, because in the speech that I have heard up to now, so many of the things I wanted to say have already been said, but maybe this is, first of all, have been said better than I would have said. Second, this maybe would allow me to concentrate more on my view of the Kashmir issue as a Europeanist. Well, I have a certain knowledge of what of Pakistan, and I manage a European Studies program at the University of Karachi and the Area Study Center. That's why I met Tehsin, who was a brilliant student at that time, and that allowed me to get somehow in touch to grasp the essence of this Kashmir problem. So, and what I try to put this into my paper or my non paper. Well, let's start in any case, as time is running. So, first of all, has already been said, the present situation, which is not, after 1 year, there is not an improvement. This nightmare is continuing and is even aggravating in respect to what we have seen in the previous year. This is something which has already been underlined by the previous intervention. And this situation reminded me a famous statement by Immanuel Kant, the German Prussian philosopher, who at the end of his brilliant career and life wrote this essay on how to set up a treaty, to establish a treaty for perpetual peace, because his bitter initial reflection was that perpetual peace was in that time only that of cemeteries and church yards. But this situation reminded me of the darkest period of European history. So it's so grave, so serious, this situation. that reminded me what Europe lived in the 20th century. So the 20th century, and more precisely between 1914 and 1945. A tragedy, but a tragedy which for a significant number of its countries continued for another 45 years and ended just in the 80s, in end of the 80s. So what have been the main elements of this strategy? Well, in any case, from this strategy, we learned that disintegration of political and economic systems generates kind of miseries. Because in this period, we saw the end of the Belle Epoque, and then we have the tragedy of World War I. Then we have seen the rise of fascism, the rise of Nazism, which led to World War II. A series of isms which have something in common. There is something in common in nationalism. And nationalism has been evoked by several of the speakers, if not all of them. Is a ghost which is present in this discussion. So, and Europe produced this ghost. Let's call them authoritarianism, fascism, Nazism, communism. But at the end of World War II, we learned that, okay, disintegration and of political and economic system generates miseries. So we look for integration, called union in diversity, so which is a far-reaching concept. So let's come to India. So already Modi's BJP enjoy consensus. Enjoy a consensus which is gained through democratic election. This is true, but it's not. Even if true, this is worrying. Democracy has produced something of which we must be somehow scared. In multinationalism, I find the two characteristics which are particularly relevant to explain 5 August: centralization of power and cultural intolerance, which is common, characteristic of nationalistic ideas, nationalistic thoughts. So regional autonomy is seen something as detrimental to the imposition of a single thought, which is the aim of nationalistic views. Nationalists do not accept diversities. Nationalists propose a single thought, which stands from the state, a single ethics, a state ethics, which has to be accepted by all. All from the state, all for the state. This was a saying which was circulating in Italy during the fascism. So it's not really promising, because if we find such a logic again today. All this is conflicting with the various declarations of human rights, from the French Revolution to the EU Charter, which put the individual at the center of the scene, not the state, the protection of the individual, the protection of the identity of the individual. So, here I provide an example of this form of nationalism that we see now in India, related with religion freedom, or better, the due respect to the believer of different religion. Modi has chosen the date of 5 August to lay the foundation stone in I don't know if I pronounce it correctly, Ayodhya Uttar Pradesh temple, which is a temple with a long history, but is something which is divided. Now I don't enter into the details of this issue, but in any case, both Modi and his party have for years made the temple of Ram a symbol of Indian identity to unite Hindus. But the problem is he's uniting Hindu against Muslims. There's nothing wrong in uniting on the, looking for a symbol of identity, but this identity should coexist with other identities. What the nationalists do not accept. So, and this is a decision against the Muslims who number around 200 million. So it's a minority because India has 1 billion or something more than 1 billion, but 200 million is a minority with a huge critical mass. So the dangers in this position, in these acts, are really very, very strong. So then the other national reform passed. Well, now concerning the state of human rights in Kashmir, well, I found a very long and detailed explanation, indication of this in this annual review of human rights published by the Association of Parents of Disappeared Persons. And out of here, I took two examples. Two examples because they shocked me in a certain sense. Not only because they are against, let's say, the EU Charter of Human Fundamental Rights, but also because they are quite affecting one side human dignity and on the other side religion freedom, which I consider that are two very fundamental pillars of human rights. So, because human dignity is at the top of the EU Charter. And in Article 1, we read human dignity is inviolable, must be respected and protected. So what happened in the report? A serious case of sexualized torture and gender violence were reported post-August 5. A case of torture from Mohammed Yassin and 11 other men were detained during the cordon and search operation and tortured. They were stripped naked and kept in a queue on the main road. All of them were electrocuted in their genitals. When the physical torture ended, they were made to lie face down on top of each other in a pile. This seems to be an extreme violation of human dignity. Then, according to Article 10 of the Charter, everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. And again, we read in a report, no prayers allowed in the historic, mosque. So complete lockdown. And so during months of Ramadan, congregational prayer were not allowed. So there is enough for, let's say, representing another huge violation of freedom of religion, which in any case is not just, we find not just in the Charter of, in the Charter of Fundamental Rights, but in the other declaration of human rights, the one of the Council of Europe, for instance, just to. Now, we come to a crucial question, which has already been raised. What could do the Europe? Had the EU any mean to reduce such a violence? Well, my answer, I mean, is not so promising. Not so, let's say, optimistic. Well, let's start from this way. The last pronouncement of the EU on German Kashmir issue goes back to 30 September 2019, almost 1 year ago, when the High Representative Federica Mogherini, so the previous commission, met with the Indian Foreign Minister. And what was the outcome? Europe repeat incessantly here litany, peaceful solution, bilateral dialogue, avoid escalation. Europe always repeat this, faced to this international crisis. Intentional good, in a certain sense, is an expression of soft power. The first expression of this soft power was the Barcelona Declaration 95. We know what happened after. So the one who started Mediterranean policy should have created a world of justice, democracy, freedom, respect of human rights in the Mediterranean area. We know history after 95. So the last example is a position reiterated even in these days on the Libyan issue. The same that we said, that Mogherini said to the foreign minister: peaceful solution, diplomatic solution, avoid escalation. And we know how things are going on in Libya. So the result is that Turkey, I remind that I'm talking from Turkey, and I'm teaching in university here in Turkey since a few years. Sorry, I've lost so that Turkey became the best allied of Sarraj, is providing to Sarraj what Sarraj needs, so weapons, and have put Europe in a corner. So, conclusion. Well, going back to Kashmir, I think that the EU could be seen as an example by countries who are facing problems that Europe had to cope with in the aftermath of World War II. Faced with economic disintegration of the 30s, Europe chose economic integration and form a political union. Europe went for union in diversities, because Europe respects diversities. It's a form of federalism, and we managed to create a space of peace, freedom, and justice. Second conclusion, when the fall of the Iron Curtain allowed it, we put an end through the fifth enlargement to the unnatural partition of the European continent into Western Europe and Oriental Europe. Years before, always a consequence of the fall of communism, Germany put an end to its unnatural partition between East and West Germany. So the 1947 partition of the Indian subcontinent into India and Pakistan led to a war, which, be under the form of high-intensity war or low-intensity war, has been going on for more than 70 years, so 73 to be exact. I was born in that year. That's why I know exactly the number of years. So, last point of my conclusion, we must put the question how European integration and the lesson from Franco-German detente could be replicated in case of India and Pakistan, and how can Kashmir and its suffering be put to an end. Thank you very much.